Hey everyone, this is Daniel,
And I'm Jun,
and we are
Korean.
American. Hey Jun,
Hey Daniel,
good morning.
good morning.
Today we're going to do another media review.
Oh yeah, it's the first time we're doing after we set up a structure.
Yes, feels good to be
Yeah.
honest.
It does.
For our audience, usually every morning we record or every time we record, it's like, oh, what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any ideas? And
Yeah.
we pick something, we do like maybe 5 minutes of light research and just go. But as of like a few weeks ago, we put together a very rough schedule.
Yeah.
Feels good.
It felt good and weird at the same time to ask you, oh, so we're doing this tomorrow, right? And
Yeah.
then like,
Instead of leading with what should we talk
Yeah.
about?
By the way, we alternate by saying audience and listeners. And you know how we were talking about like maybe having like a fan name?
Yes.
Did you see one of the comments on YouTube?
Gene, I don't read the comments.
Oh.
I can't. I can
No,
auto
but
translate.
this one was in English.
Oh, I didn't see it. I mean, I don't read them because I expect them to be in Korean. But
Because I jokingly mentioned maybe we should call them iyagis.
yeah.
And then this listener, they thought iyagis was cute, but then they also suggested caps.
Oh, like KAP.
Yeah,
caps.
caps.
Caps is good. Sorry, the only thing I'm thinking of is like it's KAS. You know, in college, even in high school too, there's always like a Korean American club.
There
or like
is.
Korean American Society.
KAS.
Or like KSA, Korean Student Association is the most common one. That's just what that triggered for me. But I don't think UXings tend to join it. I think it's mostly...
Because they're not Korean Americans, are they?
Oh, but like the Korean Student Association in college. Were you in like a Korean club? I know you said you tried to distance yourself a little bit from the UXings, but...
I don't know if there's like a official joining of the club, but
Okay.
I think I was just automatically in the list.
Enrolled.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, caps. It's not
Caps.
bad. But yeah, maybe we should do like a stories poll. Also, please let us know, write in about your ideas for what we should call our subscribers.
Maybe when we have a larger follower base.
That's what I said last time.
Yeah.
Okay, you brought it up. But yes, we did one media review as a trial before. It was for Gyeongsung Creature.
경성 크리처.
Gyeongsung Creature. And we reviewed the first episode. And now this is our second media review. Today, June, I wanted to discuss what I think is a quite popular drama, and that is Lovely Runner, or in Korean it is.
선제 없고 튀어.
Yes. And I know you're not like an avid K-drama follower. Has this one reached you yet as like, oh, this is a popular drama in Korea?
I've noticed because some of my Instagram followers started posting it on their story.
Yeah.
So I knew about it.
Okay.
And the title is very interesting.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Which I think a lot of K-dramas tend to do.
have like a provocative title.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get into it, I just have to lead with a disclaimer. This episode today may have light spoilers. So if you are, if you don't want anything spoiled, or if you were planning to watch this, please go and watch episode 1 first. But if not, just know that, yeah, we might have light spoilers. And then also, this is not a K-drama podcast in the sense that we're not going to be reviewing the drama itself and giving it like a rating or whatever. The goal of this is to use the drama as a way to highlight, okay, maybe cultural differences that stand out to us. And just as a launching pad for discussion about, again, what we try to focus this podcast on, which is differences in Korean and American culture and society. So, all right, with that, June, why don't you start with that, though? What is the title? Like, why is it provocative for a Korean? Or interesting?
So in the first episode, the female lead, what's her name? Sol?
Imsol.
She explains that this is her ID in like the fandom community. And so it's very ID-esque.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like
And
nickname.
ID means screen name.
Oh yeah.
It's like your forum name.
Your forum nickname. So in that sense, it's very... I don't know, there's a nuance to it.
Yeah.
And it's something that you don't usually say in real life.
Yeah.
But literally it means like... So the 선제 is the the male lead, right?
Yes, the idol's name.
The idol. 선제 업고 튀어 literally means like like 업어.
Like carrying on your back. Obol,
yeah,
right?
like piggybacking.
Yes, yes.
튀어 means like run away.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm gonna piggyback you and run away,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So it's a very odd, interesting title. So, and then it's very also rare to have someone's name, the character's name on the title.
That I agree. That
Yeah.
part was weird to me.
Yeah. And so it was interesting.
But you're saying the name really, when you see it, it's like, oh, that's a screen name. That looks like a screen name to me.
I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
But it made sense.
Once you found out.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, this is something I think is really... I only know the English names or the English translations of these K-dramas. And I think they're not trying to like literally translate it, right? What am I trying to say? They're not just going word by word, right? Because they could have easily translated this drama title as like Piggyback Sungjae and Flee, right? And actually the subtitles I was watching it on Viki, which I'll get to later, it said, you know, Piggyback Sungjae and Run. That's like, this is why, side note, I thought that the last character was Tia, like Run.
Tia,
but you said it's Tia, which is fleeing.
Yeah, like runaway, sort of.
I think, well, these two words sound awfully similar and have awfully similar meanings.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how it translated it when it showed it in the subtitles. So, like, again, Piggyback Sungjae and Run. But why didn't they name it that, for example? And, like, why did they go to Lovely Runner? It makes it really hard when I'm talking with Koreans who only know the Korean title. It, like, takes a minute or two for us to find out, okay, we're talking about the same drama.
Interesting. There's also a quite interesting point here, and maybe this ties back to when we were explaining about the poke menus and how all the menu names were in English.
Yeah.
Interesting thing is when American or Western media is imported to Korea, they try to maintain the original as much as possible.
I see.
Like, for instance, Inside Out, the animation, the sequel is coming out very soon, right? In Korea, it's just called Inside Out.
Inside Out, yeah.
But then when it comes to the opposite, when Korean dramas are exported to the US, they tend to translate it into something else.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Koreans do all learn English growing up, right? And so I would say at least, I don't know, some very high percentage of Koreans can read English and at least are aware of and familiar with English, right? Well, if you just transliterate it to like, you know, SUNJAE, like even that, they'd be like, did they mistype like Sunday? Or like, why is it Sunjay? What is this, right? So Americans would just like, it wouldn't mean anything to them.
I see.
Yeah. Whereas I think Koreans are aware of English and can read English, so it kind of is more natural.
Only when the English title is too foreign or hard to pronounce, they would change it to Korean.
Ah, interesting.
Like, I think, for instance, last year I watched this movie called Heredity.
Okay.
That was translated into Korean.
Okay.
Because it number one, it's not a word that they would understand immediately, even in
it's like
English.
your ancestry, right?
Yeah. And then number two, the pronunciation is
very
kind of
hard.
difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I, for one, wish that K-dramas would just, I guess, directly translate word for word in a sense. So yeah, Piggyback Sungjae and Ran, I think would be a fine English title.
Oh, but why wouldn't you just like actually call it 선제 없고 튀어?
In English?
Yeah,
that one, this is what I mean. Even for me, I think that would feel weird. It's just not a thing that's done.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. Kimchi, right?
Yeah. I also talked about this in I think it's our food episode. About the fish cake, rice cake thing.
Yeah.
Like, I would want them to just call it
Odeng,
or or 떡.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Good question for if anyone has thoughts or is good at translating or works as a professional translator. Let us know your thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would fall in the camp of I want them to translate, not just, transliterate, if that's it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on. I have a couple higher level things, but Jun, I just want to run through maybe... Okay, I'll start with this. Jun, are you interested in how I even found out about this one?
I was, because even for me, I first searched it on Netflix and it wasn't there. And then I remembered you said it was explicitly on TVing.
Yeah.
Which is not I mean, it is a big platform in Korea, but then my immediate thought was, how do foreigners find this out? Like, do they sign up for TVing?
Yeah. Well,
And
they don't
and
sign
you know
up for
how
TV.
and you know how hard it is to sign up for a Korean website. So I was actually very curious.
Yeah, I'm able to watch this through Viki, but I
Ah,
have to VPN to the US
ah,
because for whatever reason, like Viki, and if I'm in Korea, it doesn't work
mm-hmm.
like I expect it to work.
Ah.
I
So
don't.
they
Maybe
have a license.
I'm sure it has to do with some licensing thing, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe I installed the wrong version of Viki.
Mm-hmm.
This is another thing. Like if my Google Play account is set to my Korean-based account,
Mm,
I see a completely different set of apps
mm,
than if I am signed with my US-based Google account.
I
Very
see.
confusing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, it's not on Netflix, which also surprised me. Again, how I discover K-dramas sometimes is I go to K-drama, the subreddit for K-dramas
Mm-hmm.
on Reddit.
Mm,
And there's also a specific one, not just for K-dramas, called K-drama recommends.
mm-hmm.
So I basically read through these and see like, okay, there's like everyone is recommending
Mm-hmm.
Lovely Runner.
Mm-hmm.
No one is saying they're stopping Lovely Runner. So it must be good, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's continuing to be good past the
Mm-hmm.
initial ones. And so, yeah. And then I also, this episode recording is a bit timely, June, because the 15th and 16th episodes, its conclusion is this week.
Oh,
So today and tomorrow. It'll already have finished broadcasting by the time this podcast is
I
released.
see.
So,
Are you excited about the final episode? Or
I am, but it definitely took a more like mellow twist in a sense.
I see.
And so again, I'm there for the romance too.
I mean, I only watched the first episode, but what were you expecting?
I like rom-coms. I guess what's my... I think this one is particularly skewed towards the female audience.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to get into this too,
We'll
because
get
while I was watching episode 1, it's like I couldn't stop thinking, why is Daniel watching this?
June, are you questioning my masculinity?
This is like, I don't know, a teenage girl fantasy episode. Which I'm not saying it wasn't entertaining. I can get it, but there's a very specific audience that is targeted, I think.
I would be judged hardcore, I think, for watching this in America for sure.
Yeah.
With its toxic masculinity. June, I didn't expect to be judged hardcore in Korea.
No. Okay, I'm not judging you. Maybe I was
You are.
a little bit. Why are you watching this?
Would Koreans generally shame other, like, let's say Korean men, shame other Korean men for watching something that is targeted towards women? Of course, but I mean, I'm wondering to what extent.
Not to the extent, definitely not to the extent of the US. I don't know. I think it's pretty neutral.
Okay.
Yeah. There are certain things that, I mean, people would judge men doing things that are feminine, but it has to be a lot more feminine
Than this?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were we on? How did I find it? Yeah. So I think the fact that this was not on Netflix, June, makes it even more leaning towards like, oh wow, this is really good.
I see what
because
you
it
mean.
doesn't have like broad appeal.
Yeah.
Right. It's like everyone has Netflix, maybe a few less people, but still a lot of people have Disney Plus. Like these K dramas are everywhere.
Yeah.
For the Western audience, right? Because they're so accessible. But having to get Viki, or there's another platform. I don't have my phone on me. There's like other random platforms too. Like that's to me getting into the long tail. And so if like you have to have these subscription services to watch, just like, oh, this must be good. Yeah. Or maybe there's just some hack and they're using torrents or something to watch, but I don't think so.
I kind of thought that maybe the US audience is just like using pirateware
to watch, yeah.
But yeah,
I don't think so. Yeah.
It's a good thing that they have their legal platforms to watch this. Yeah.
Anyway, before I move on.
I didn't have TVing on me.
Oh, you didn't? Oh.
I mean, I sort of do. So I only have the membership that I can only stream on my phone because it comes with a bundle with some other membership that I'm on.
Yeah.
So I had to like sort of like AirPlay it to my TV to watch it. So I don't watch media on my phone.
June, I think that Gen MZ would be like you boomer, right?
I'm an MZ for sure.
Okay.
But I'm not Z.
You're not
That's
Z.
why. I'm
Yeah.
an M.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting quirk though, right? So there's all these memes in America. Like, how do you know you're a millennial?
Yeah.
Like, what does Gen A or Gen Z make fun of you for? It's like millennials, for example, like this one really resonates to me. We don't buy plane tickets on our phone. That's like a desktop activity. Like you have to do that on a laptop or a desktop.
I think I resonate with that.
But I think this is a similar. It's like, do you watch dramas on your phone, or do you have to watch on like your laptop or a big screen?
Yeah, I mean, I want to argue that it's slightly different. Because you're watching media, like why do you go to a movie theater to watch it in a bigger screen?
That's true. But I think
I know this is what probably all
you might be unique.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of your friends watch a lot of media. Do you watch any media on your phone?
YouTube maybe.
YouTube. Okay.
Sometimes, yeah.
Why does this feel different?
That's an interesting point. YouTubes are usually shorter.
I see. I see. And also maybe, no, that's not true. I was going to say like you started watching YouTube on your phone, but probably not. You're probably starting. YouTube was popular before smartphones were popular in Korea, right?
Not as much as right now. But yeah.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd say squarely I remember watching YouTube not from my phone. And then smartphones came out like, years later. And it just like ramped up the amount you view.
I think YouTube was definitely accessible to the Korean public before the smartphone, but it definitely gained like the attention that it has right now with smartphones. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
God, this episode is going to be long again. We still haven't got into anything.
Let me move on. Yeah.
But yeah, I also wanted to mention that this is also a webtoon original.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because a lot of K-dramas are based on webtoons these days.
I mean, it feels like close to 100% now or based off of webtoons. Okay, wait. There's so many jumping off points to what you're saying. So one of the, I think, subcultures within K-drama viewers, it's fun to watch, but it's even more fun to discuss and talk about the K-drama after and kind of speculate and make fan theories, right? So for example, people who have read the webtoon, they generally know where it's going, right? And they're very careful not to spoil it, but they do have like some insight, like, how are they going to do this? Or maybe they're going to cut that out.
I see.
Or, there's often a lot of fun that they have comparing, like, how does the show differ from the webtoon? One, they also look at the intro, like cutscene, right? Like we've talked about this before. They spend so much time and energy, it feels like, making a really good intro, right, to the K-drama. Which is just skipped by all viewers. But anyway, and like you can often see foreshadowing or like themes or how's that going to play out.
Yes.
And then another thing with K-dramas, I think it's pretty standard. At the end of it, they always show like the montage recapping the current episode, but they'll show you the preview scenes, right, for the coming future episodes, right? Almost like a teaser.
At the end.
Yeah, at the end of the drama. So I think, fans take all this together and try to look, okay, like these were like small details in the episode that are going to come back later. And they make predictions and fan theories and all that. And so I was just, I don't know what my point here was, but because of the fact that they're often based on webtoons, it gives fans a lot of material to work with to try to create the fan theories and predict what's going to happen. And this, I think, is, happens with all K-dramas. But I think the closest analogy I could think of was when I was watching Game of Thrones live. And like, there was a book series, right? It was based off books, so they knew how the books played out. And like, people were just speculating nonstop, like, oh, this is going to happen, or I wonder if they're going to do that or whatever. So it was part of like the cultural, I guess, zeitgeist where everyone in the country was watching this thing and everyone was discussing it. And a lot of these fan theories emerged. But yeah, this seems like a subculture that happens in K-dramas more than, I don't know, like I rarely watch dramas in the US like as they're coming out. I just consume them separately, like, when it's not being broadcast. And so it's not fun to go back in time and like speculate. You can just literally watch what's coming out next. So I think because K-dramas there are always new ones coming out, the end, like this cycle, I think, of being able to fan theory and speculate as the episodes are coming out. It's much more common with K-dramas for me than it is for like American media.
Interesting. Again, I'm not a huge K-drama fan myself, so I might be missing something. But as far as I know, the first time that I realized this, that like the broadcasting or the production is trying to encourage people to speculate and discuss about this is from this drama called Sky Castle, which it has the same female character.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think I really liked her. Huh?
Imsol? I don't know her real name.
She was the main lead.
Okay.
In Sky Castle as well. I really like I really like her acting, actually. I think she's a really good actress. Anyways, that's when, because Sky Castle, the overall, I guess, genre is very suspense thriller. And so people are trying to figure out like who's, because there was like the who done it kind of aspect in there.
Yeah.
So everyone was trying to guess who it was. And then like there were like these little hints here and there, very like symbolic objects or whatnot that sometimes people like misread or like read into too much. And sometimes it was right.
Yeah.
So I remember that a lot of people who are watching Sky Castle were really into discussing. And I think that's like the initial phases of when this all started.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but that's when I recognized
for
it.
you. Yeah. And really, it does. I'm not kidding, right? Like that being able to discuss something live in a sense. It's a big part of the viewing experience for me. Like in this age of everything streaming and asynchronous, right? The only pure live viewing experience in a lot of people's minds now is sports, right? Live sports. That's like the ultimate live viewing experience now. And this is almost like akin to that, like watching it as the episodes are coming out, discussing it and waiting for the next one. And anyway, this like, to me, it's more and more rare. And definitely for me, it doesn't happen in Western media. But I think with K-dramas, because they're so compact in a sense, like there's this formula of 16 episodes, you can kind of predict it. And like you said, I think writers and producers and directors, they bake it in now. Like it's totally a part of the K-drama formula now to have these like teaser things or like details that come into play later, like heavy foreshadowing, for example. And you're trying to think, okay, is that going to be foreshadowed? Is that important later on or not?
Yeah.
Anyway,
we're talking about a very interesting or like a very specific keyword that's very oftenly used in Korean media culture.
Foreshadowing?
No, there's a keyword called tteokbap.
Tteokbap.
Do you know what it means?
I know what it literally means, which is like rice cake with...
Oh, yeah. Originally, what it means is it's a substance where people who fish use to throw into the water to lure the fish first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tteokbap together.
Yeah, tteokbap together.
Okay.
I don't know where it came from, but that's what it is. And so in Korean media, we call that tteokbap. So like the writer, they throw the thing so that they lure the fish in. And like people are very interested.
I love that term. Yeah, that's a good term. It's also, I think maybe in the US they would use the term breadcrumbing. Like they just leave a little trail of breadcrumbs leading you to the like big thing.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing was like, duck and bop are the same, just in different forms almost. Right? So like bop, like one bop is like a little bop kernel.
Yeah.
A grain of rice compared to like the duck is a substance, like all of the duck together.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of bops smashed together.
Maybe.
It's the same as breadcrumbs to bread.
Yeah. Anyways.
Would you agree with that analogy?
No.
Wait, why not? Like, breadcrumb is to bread as pop is to duck.
Well, pop doesn't necessarily mean that one grain, though. Pop just means the overall thing.
But literally, duck pop together is like a thing that you use to like lure fish.
Lure the fish, yeah. And so they also have a concept called tteokbap 회수, like retrieving back the tteokbap, meaning that there's like a clear explanations of all of these hints. Sometimes like media fans say tteokbap 회수 실패, like they fail to
complete
have like a clear explanation of why everything happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Western audiences do discuss that. It's like, this is not going to come back later. This is or not. Yeah. It does maybe upset me. That's too strong for a word. I think it's akawa sometimes. It's like wasteful if they like didn't like. There's some fan theory that's awesome and it doesn't actually like play out. It's like, they missed a chance to make it even cooler.
Yeah, I think a very good example in American media was Lost. Because there were so many
plot holes.
Things, but they couldn't explain everything in the end.
Interesting. Okay, that's a fun term. I did not know that. Okay, all right. I think we hit June a lot of the higher level things I wanted to discuss. Yeah. Maybe now I can go like maybe almost scene by scene. I noted a bunch of details that I wanted to talk to you about. So the first one.
So sorry, I also want to start.
You go first, June.
No, because before recording when we met this morning,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think there's a lot to talk about. And
Yeah.
then you were like, oh, I have a lot to talk about. So I'm very excited to see what you can bring up.
It's small. A lot of these are super small and might not make the final cut. But let me just go through them. Okay, so in the very opening scene, the band name in this drama is called Eclipse. And I think they're like debuting or launching or... Maybe that's not true. They're doing like a promotion event because they're also showing like a literal physical eclipse happening in Korea at the same time. Do you remember the scene?
Yes.
Did anything stand out to you as like inaccurate?
Scientifically? Oh my God. No, I haven't.
So, okay. Basically, I think maybe like 1 or 2 months ago in the US,
Oh, yeah.
there was eclipse going on. And it was crazy. Basically, my entire Facebook and Instagram feeds were nothing but eclipse photos from my friends. My brother literally like played hooky, took time off of work, took his kids out of school. In fact, I think the school might have even like given a day off so that people could go view the eclipse together. He drove with his family hours to get to a better eclipse viewing spot in the path of the eclipse. It was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And anyway, so this was all like very fresh and top of mind for me. I couldn't help but notice, June, in the drama, they were all looking and taking pictures of the eclipse directly.
Oh, okay.
This is like a no-no. Like every single person is like, you cannot look at the eclipse. You'll mess up your eyes. Don't look at it. You have to look through either a particular set of glasses or look at like a sheet of paper so you can see the reflection of the eclipse.
That's true.
But all these Koreans are like taking pictures and I'm like, oh, they're going to ruin their eyes.
That hasn't crossed my eyes. I wanted to, in this scene, not the eclipse scene specifically, but in the beginning scene, I had certain things that are very culturally nuanced that American audience would have not noticed.
Okay.
So it's very interesting because it starts with 2009 and then it jumps to 2022.
23, yeah.
20. Oh yeah, the end, like the last day of 22.
Last day of 22, yeah.
And then it goes back to whatever, right? So it's like the plot itself goes back and forth in time, but also like actually in the story you go back in time too. So that I think that was interesting. What I was trying to get at is in 2009, it's the year when Eclipse does their debut, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a scene where these 4 boys goes into a room and does like synchronously 안녕하십니까.
Yeah.
Do you see that scene?
It's the radio broadcast, right? The show.
It's a radio broadcast, but that's like the room that they say 안녕하십니까 is not the radio recording room. It's sort of like the green room.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, I know for a fact that it's sort of like in Korean entertainment industry.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a culture there.
Yeah.
Where like the newbies has to go to like their 선배's green room and they have to say 안녕하십니까 first.
I did not. I missed this scene, and I've seen this episode twice.
Yeah, so I think they're trying to depict how they're fresh and new.
Yeah.
Like it's like their debut era where they have to go around these green rooms to their 선배s and say like 안녕하십니까, like, oh, like we're new, we're saying hi to you. That's very typical Korean entertainment industry culture.
Totally missed that.
Yeah.
So they would have been going up to their 선배s to do that.
Yeah.
I thought for whatever reason it's just like to the general their fans, but it's actually to their 선배s.
It's to their 선배s.
Totally missed that, June.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, June. There's a scene where the band members run up to like there's this, I don't know, looks like a female idol sitting there doing some like signing or doing some event. And he runs up to her and says like, oh, I'm such a fan. 저는 팬입니다. Like, can you please sign my shirt or something like that? And I think...
Was she the radio host?
No, she wasn't. She was just like some celebrity.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a cameo, by the way?
See, this is something that I was going to talk about, but wanted to reserve for later.
Okay.
One interesting thing that this drama does, because it goes back in time in very many different eras.
It's like time capsules of 2009, right, versus modern day. Yeah.
And so I think it does a very clever thing to anchor and transcend the audience to that exact time.
Yeah, which era you're in, right?
Yeah. They keep on playing songs that were popular in that era. And that was a cameo, which is Girls' Generation. And she was wearing that uniform when she was when the song that they were performing in 2009.
I see.
And so the audience, including me, you immediately transcend to that era.
Yeah.
And they keep on doing that for different eras too.
Yeah.
I'll get to that later, but there's one in 2008.
They're all 2008 for the first episode, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they use like these symbolic anchors.
So every Korean would recognize, oh, that's the star from Girls' Generation.
Yeah.
And that's their music.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that was completely lost on me. But I knew it was a cameo because,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, she was particularly beautiful. And, like, he ran to her. Yeah, okay. But she was actually a real person.
Yeah, she was actually that person.
Okay.
And then also in 2008,
Yeah.
they highlight the swimmer.
Yeah, Pak Tae. I added a note here, too. So let's talk about that.
And he was like one of the most, like he was the...
Pak Tae Hwan, right?
Pak Tae Hwan,
Okay.
yeah.
So every Korean would know that name and associate it with that time period immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was, number one, I was very surprised that he's like, I don't know if this is like CG.
Yeah.
CGI.
Oh, it was actually Pak Tae Hwan.
It was actually him.
Oh, see,
Every
this is all
cameo
lost
was
on
the
me.
actual person.
Okay.
I was very surprised that he like still in that shape.
Yeah.
Maybe it's computer graphics, I don't know. He looked exactly like how he was in 2008.
15 years ago.
But
yeah.
2008 was sort of like his year.
Yeah.
Right?
The year of Pak Tae Hwan, yeah.
Yeah. And then the songs that are playing are always, align with that time.
It is clever because Jun, to spoil a little bit, right? She time travels back and forth between different eras.
Oh, she
and
does.
so I suspect that they do this throughout the whole drama.
Yeah.
But it's all lost on me.
Interesting. I think that's one of the very like fun points of watching this drama.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe.
like being
like all the cameos and like transcending back to that era by listening to that song.
It's the same nostalgic appeal as like the Reply to Me, 1988,
Exactly.
1997, those, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, totally lost on, I think, me and every Western viewer. Okay.
But if there are any like hardcore K-pop fans or who are really into Korean culture watching this drama, they might have noticed.
Yeah.
Like Girls' Generation is very popular.
But I bet the swimmer Pak Tae Hwan,
It's lost on them.
it's like, okay, this was a famous Korean swimmer. But also you don't know, is this a real swimmer? Like they're just saying Beijing 2008 Olympics. Is that the actual swimmer acting? Like anyone could have played that in a sense. Yeah, I assumed it was just an actor playing this character.
Yeah.
Who may or may not have been fictional, but associating with like a Korean hero from the 2008 Olympics.
Yeah.
But you're saying this triggers a very different response for a Korean viewer. Yeah.
Because everyone has a memory of him.
Like watching Pak Tae Hwan swimming.
Yeah. And it's like right before the Beijing Olympics. So everyone had a lot of high hopes.
Oh, for him leading into it.
And then he got the gold medal, I think, in 2008.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Fun. Jun, why I brought that scene up to begin with was he immediately goes up to who I now know is the Girls' Generation lead and says, oh, I'm a fan. Right? And we've talked about this before when we had our guests on. When he says fan, does that immediately imply like saseng fan? Or is it just like I'm a super fan? Like, anyway, I want to understand, like, because I say I'm a fan of a lot of things. It doesn't mean much. I think I would have to say, like, oh, I'm a saseng fan. I'm like a super fan to elicit some sort of response. So I guess the question for you is, like, does fan, pen, does that immediately imply, like, saseng pen? Or is there, like, is there this group of, like, casual fan versus, like, hardcore super fan?
There definitely is, but I think the word fan is used more in the way that you describe. If
like
I say
hardcore.
I'm a fan, no, it says like very casually. Yeah,
okay.
I would just say like I'm a fan to anyone that I just casually know to just get their attention. Like I'm a fan, right? I think that's why in the Hangang Bridge scene when the female lead Imsol, her wheelchair thing breaks, and then she actually meets with Sunjae.
Yeah.
She tries to describe how she's actually a real fan.
Yeah. Like not just the right. Yeah.
Like she describes like I was a fan from when you were from your debut and blah 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 blah.
But she still just says like 저는 팬입니다. Like I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you can say that doesn't imply immediately you're a hardcore super fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So then maybe you could talk about like the term saseng fan, because that's, as far as I know, that means you're a super fan, right?
Okay, you can jokingly say that, but literally saseng fan is not a good thing.
Oh, really?
No.
Wait, okay, I think I misinterpreted this from a previous episode.
Yeah.
Because I thought saseng fan literally just meant like super hardcore fan.
It can be translated. I guess it's like a, what do you call it? Hyperbole?
Hyperbole. Yeah.
Hyperbole.
Yeah.
But literally a 사생팬, in my understanding, is not a good thing.
Okay. What's it mean to you?
사생팬 is a amalgamation of two words. 사생활 meaning their private life. And then fan, 사생팬, meaning that they would like infiltrate through the artist, actor, or singer's private life to the extent of like they find out where they live, they wait in front of their house, they find out their phone number, and then they call them like
stalker
general.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a pretty big issue, social problem in Korea at some point. And I think it still is. But now I think generally people understand that it's a bad thing.
Interesting.
And I think even the fandom, they would differentiate them with the saseng fans.
So the super fans would not say we're saseng fans.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
What would you say? Like 진짜 팬입니다? Like really I'm a fan?
Jinpen?
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the term for super fan.
Yeah.
All right. And then wait, but this is interesting to me because June, in my time in Korea, I've already seen at least 2, maybe more, of these airport mobs. And I know there's a term for it, but like I was literally walking into the airport for a flight one day, and it was just like lined with photographers and like hundreds, maybe 200-300 people. And it was just like out of a K-drama scene, it feels like. But they had their little step ladder so they could get higher position. They snapped pictures both when this group came in. And I think in hindsight, I asked someone, I think it was NCT Dream.
NCT Dream.
Is that right?
I think so.
Okay. But like they took pictures, and as soon as they like walked in, they like ran to where they would see another view. So like took a picture, run ahead, take a picture, run ahead, take a picture, run ahead. Some of them are moving their like step ladders too. It was crazy. And it's, you know, the fact that I haven't flown that much while I've been in Korea. Maybe I've taken 5-6 flights, and I've already seen this twice, like a mob at the airport.
Yeah.
So clearly it's not discouraged that much because like it's still happening.
But that's not a 사생팬 activity though, because that's in public. Like if you're doing it in like in their concert or in the airport, I think there's a blurred line. I understand.
Okay.
But if they're moving to their houses and you follow them,
that might be crossing the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so there's a thing called, I know you probably saw it in the airport, but these super fans, they all have this thing called the 대폭 camera. 대폭 literally means Canon, like Canon camera, meaning that because like they have these like super zoom lenses,
very high quality,
maybe even something that a National Geographic photographer would use. It's like super zoom, so that they can get them very up close from very far away. And so if they do that, so what they do, these saseng fans, they would follow their cars, and from their window they would like try to take pictures.
Very
of them.
paparazzi-esque. I see.
So I think there's a line, and I'm not really into fandom culture, but I'm pretty sure now, because after like in the early 2000s or mid 2000s, it was a really big problem. So now I'm pretty sure they have a rule to not do that, or like maybe differentiate them with actual fans.
I see.
Because that's not what a fan would do. I mean, because like a true fan maybe would like to keep their private lives and like.
I see.
Yeah.
They respect their private life.
Yeah.
But at an airport, there's no like privacy about that, and that's okay.
Because the airport scene became a culture in Korean fandom.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Because it became a genre almost in Korean fandom called the 공항 look.
Okay.
And so it started from
the
like
airport look?
Yeah.
Okay.
It casually started from like taking pictures of them in the airport.
Yeah.
And some were like very fashionable and like the things that we're wearing like sold out and stuff. And now it became a culture.
Yeah.
So that I think the 공항 look is very important for them. And the entertainers, they also know that this is a thing. So maybe they wear all the sponsored clothes and
to
all.
go to the airport.
Yeah.
I see. All right. Well, anyway,
they probably changed somewhere, right? Because they can't be wearing that.
it.
Yeah.
June, I think this is a good launching off point though for something I really wanted to discuss though, because for me, like tracking someone's airplane schedule, and okay, maybe it's now a part of the culture such that they publish when they're gonna fly so that fans can know. But that's pretty stalkerish to me, like knowing when they fly in and out and like meeting them at the airport.
Yeah.
Right. So in general, later on, clearly the main lead is depicted as a super fan of this group.
Yeah.
Right. Her room, and she at this point in 2023 or whatever, she's like mid-30s, I think. Like her room is plastered like a teenage girl's room, quote unquote. Right. Like, and it's one thing for like a teenage girl, let's say in the US, to be obsessed with a boy band. But for someone in their mid-30s to still be obsessed with this group, it's just, it's too much, right? But I'm wondering to you, is this level of fandom, common, let's say, in Korea? Or what is it about Koreans that I think leads to like an excessive level, like of obsession with things, of like fandom, beyond just like casual fan, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think number one, the story sort of built it up. Explaining why these idols have particularly special meanings to her, so that I understand. But also number two, I think Korean people tend to go to the extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
That's probably it.
So when you see like that person's room as a mid-30s, like obsessed with them still, that doesn't trigger anything for you? Like, oh, like...
That can happen.
Okay. I think a Western definition of hardcore fan and Korean is very different. And I know, of course, they're over-dramatizing it, right? It is a drama. But in general, like for a Korean person, when they become a fan of something, to go like super all in and extreme and obsessive, that just feels normal to you?
It's not normal, but it's understandable.
Okay.
I can see people who do that.
Even into their later years, let's say 30s, 40s.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think that's the biggest difference.
I see.
This is something you'd expect with like teenagers. But as you get older and older, maybe a little weird. Yeah.
I mean, if she were to be in real life, she would get that a lot. Like, what are you doing? You're in your 30s.
I see.
But I can see like some people can do that. And again, I think the story had a build up.
Yeah.
For why she's so into the idol.
She credits that idol with saving her life. So,
Yeah.
I get it. Okay. Okay. Now that I say it, June, men in the US, they get this way with their sports teams.
Do you have a Lakers poster?
Not me. Come on, not Lakers. But like, I guess their room is plastered. Even like older men, right? All their clothes, like they're decked out in like gear for the team.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, their entire basement is like set up for the viewing experience of their team playing. So I can understand this level of obsession.
Okay.
I think specifically, again, for a middle-aged woman, in a sense, to be obsessed over this like pop group still,
Interesting.
that's different. Like that would be very uncommon, I think, in the US. It would even be seen as kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot to go through. Let me try to go quick. June, does the name Seoul, Seoul, what does that mean to you? Because for me, they introduced her name right after the eclipse. So I equate Seoul with sun, like solar. And so I'm wondering if that's the meaning for a Korean.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think any Korean would associate the sun with
Seoul.
It's a Latin word, right?
Okay,
So,
okay,
no.
yeah. So what does Imseol mean to you then? Or does it mean anything?
Doesn't mean anything. It's just a pretty name.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. 'Cause I think names in general, right? Like I do think a lot of times they're chosen very carefully.
I mean,
nothing
the
to
writer must have thought of Seoul as like the sun soul. But
Oh, you do think so?
maybe, but Korean general public wouldn't associate the pronunciation of Seoul with sun.
Okay. And the name itself, Imseol, doesn't have any like double meaning to you yet.
It's not as far as I know.
Okay.
No.
Cool. June, when did, and I think they probably do this as well to anchor the time in which they're depicting.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Sunjae also has sun. Is that where you were getting at?
oh no. I never realized that. Yeah, the male lead is Sun Jae,
Yeah.
which sun is clearly sun.
Maybe it means something.
The average Korean would know sun is sun, right?
Yeah.
Okay. June.
Yeah.
I do think this probably is done to anchor the scene with its time. But, that flip cell phone, does that immediately scream like 2008 to you? And I guess my follow-up to that is, when did smartphones like really take off in Korea? Because for me, that phone felt more like, let's say, early 2000s rather than late 2000s. So I was just wondering if that triggered anything for you.
I think the first iPhone came out at 2008, right? And then it wasn't imported to Korea until I want to say 2010, because 2009 was when I started my school in the States. And I remember the first thing all the 유학생s did was go get an iPhone.
I see.
So, I mean, there were a form of smartphones before the iPhone, like the Samsung. There was a Galaxy before the iPhone was imported. I think so. So there was like so-and-so smartphone before that, but I think it really took off starting from 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that's actually exactly the same as the US.
Yeah.
Maybe the one difference being there was like a very popular phone that lots and lots of, especially like early 20s like working employees had in the US, called the BlackBerry. Did the BlackBerry ever make it to Korea? We called it the Crackberry because it was so addictive.
No, I don't think so. Because I think I guess the killer feature of the BlackBerry was that you can do emails on your phone, right?
Email and messaging, BBM, BlackBerry Messenger. Yeah.
I don't think email was never a thing, even still in Korea.
Yeah.
As it is in the US. Yeah.
Which is so crazy to me because I consider Korea like bleeding edge technology. But yeah, like a lot of developing countries like India and others, they went straight to the smartphone. So they skipped the email entirely, which email I think is more of like a laptop, desktop type thing. Yeah.
I think that's the case for Korea too a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a cultural thing.
I would not have expected that.
I mean, there was a huge email phase in Korea, but as they moved to the smartphone, I think they ditched email altogether.
I guess it's surprising to me because, again, I consider Korea like having been technologically advanced even in the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
So most houses had like a desktop, right? Is that not true?
It is true.
Yeah. So like, how did they communicate back then over computer?
They did use email. That's why I'm saying there was a huge email phase.
Oh, okay.
But then with the smartphone, they just ditched email altogether. But what is interesting for a Korean person to see in the US is that they still use email.
Email is still very commonly used.
But okay, I think this is a common Korean thinking.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just message them? Why are you writing an email?
Yeah, it gets back to like identification and things like that. Signing up for a cell phone in the US is like nowhere near as involved as in Korea. You don't associate with all your ID. So I think email is closer to like, this is my formal ID online. So when I'm registering for things online, etc., I'm much more likely to use email over cell phone. Yeah.
Interesting.
So whereas cell phone, I think, US people can change numbers very quickly. And again, it's not hard to get one. So I think, email is more associated with like my ID.
I see.
Online for like secure things or whatever. And phone is much more casual, I think.
As opposed to in Korea, your phone number is your ID.
It is your ID, exactly. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's keep going very quickly. Okay. All right, so there's a scene where the grandma in the show is, depicted as clearly having dementia. This is a huge topic we need to devote a whole episode to later. But mental health in general, to me, it was not nice, but I'm glad that they depicted like a character having mental health. Because in general, I think in Korea, this is something that's not really discussed that much. Where I suspect there's a huge population of people in Korea with dementia. But maybe I'm just off in that, right? When you see someone portrayed with like dementia, does that trigger anything for you? Or, and how do you think about mental health in Korea in general? Like, is dementia commonly talked about?
I think dementia in general is commonly talked about more than actually like young people's mental health issues.
I see.
Yeah. I think that the thing about mental health in Korea is that for a long time, and maybe even so, it's very taboo to talk about, which I think contributes a substantial amount to the suicide rate in Korea.
Yeah.
Because you don't talk about it. Like, they really fear of going to a mental clinic or a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I think it's becoming more and more common these days, but I think it's still very, very sort of like underground, something that you don't really talk about.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is true or a rumor, But there's this common understanding amongst Korean public that if you go to a mental hospital, the track record would play a disadvantage to you when you get a job.
It's like having an official criminal record. Like it stays with you, and employers can see it.
Yeah. I always think theoretically, how is that possible? Because that's your personal record.
Private record, yeah.
But maybe it was true. Like it couldn't have came out of nowhere. But that's like a general understanding of
in
Koreans.
Korea, do employees have access to a potential employee's like health and medical records and history in general?
I don't think they can in general, but what they do is that they do a pre-employment medical screening sometimes. And that can go to your employee.
Oh, that's dirty.
Yeah, they can't like access your previous record, but
as a part of that screen, they might ask about previous history.
Maybe, or you actually go through a medical screening, so they get the results of that immediately.
That feels okay to me.
Yeah.
But if they use that as a way to like get the history, I think that's a little.
I've never thought about that.
Okay. Anyway, so at least it sounds like dementia in the elderly is not taboo, but any sort of like mental health issues for not elderly is still a little bit taboo.
Yes.
Okay. Progress. Like I said, I hope we talk about this later, but I am a big believer in therapy, and I think everyone needs it, and it's super beneficial.
Yeah.
And mental health to me feels like one of the biggest crises in Korea that should be addressed at some point. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah.
Okay. There was a scene, June, where the older brother of the main character, he comes home. It's in the morning. It's like 7, 8 a.m., whatever. And he's like, I just have to like wash and head back to work. This would feel really like uncommon or out of the blue to a Western audience. But now I get it. He probably had a heshik.
Yeah.
Maybe slept at a jjimjilbang.
Yeah.
And is just coming home to change and needs to go right back.
Yes.
But yeah, that to you is probably like, oh yeah, that's life. But to a Western view, it's like, wow, that's hardcore or that's extreme.
This is one of the things that I find hard to understand even for a Korean, because I think the work culture is very different compared to a tech industry and non-tech industry in Korea. So I hear these horror stories from my friends who work in like non-tech.
Yeah.
But I've never experienced that. So I don't know if it's an exaggeration, if it's actually true, or whether it's something that happened before but doesn't happen that much now.
Okay. This was a note, like when the lead character is heading out to the concert, she like, getting all her gear ready, and then she's like, oh, I almost forgot the most important part, which is the ticket. And she like kisses the ticket. I just have to say, like, knowing how hard it is to get tickets in Korea, June, this scene hits different.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many events in Korea I would love to go to. I would pay above the market price to go to.
Yeah.
But I don't even try because I know it's impossible. It's really sad to me. So anyway, it hits that much harder knowing that there's no resale market. Like, anytime you have a ticket to this thing that's very hard to get through, dedication. That's like, it took extreme dedication to get that ticket. But June, this is what makes things so hard in Korea. There's so many people.
Yeah, trying to do the same thing.
Don't Koreans get frustrated too? Like, oh, I can't get tickets to something? Or it's just a fact of life you're just used to.
Well, I also want to emphasize it's not Korea in general, it's Seoul.
Okay.
Because it's like majority of the population is cramped in a single city.
You always say this, but it is true that more than half of the Korea population lives in Seoul.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're greater than half. It's not crazy to equate a lot of Korea with Seoul.
But as a person who came from a non-Seoul city, I also want to say that there's at least half of people who are not living in Seoul.
Okay. And
it's a very like Seoul-centric thinking sometimes. Yeah.
In Jung, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is similar in theme to the mental health thing, but the main character, she had an accident and she's wheelchair bound. So I don't know what your reaction is to seeing a wheelchair, but for me as a parent who is used to using a stroller everywhere in America, Korea is not accessibility friendly or wheelchair friendly or stroller friendly at all, in my opinion. That there are, paved streets, there are elevators here and there. I suspect there are some rules. But it is so hard to navigate around Korea with a stroller. And I can only imagine, Seoul with the stroller. I can only imagine it's even more hard as a wheelchair person.
Yeah.
And you, quite frankly, like, you never see people with wheelchairs around Korea, which I don't know if they're there and they just don't go out. It's too hard for them, etc. But in contrast to America, where like you see, it's almost too much now.
Yeah.
But you see wheelchairs everywhere and like the mechanized ones.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's a scene now. Whenever I get off an airport in America now, I'm kind of shocked. It's a bit shocking to see, you know, 15, 20 people waiting for the wheelchair to come and someone to escort them. Again, I think it's too much, and I think it's a bit reinforcing, right? Because it's so easy to get a wheelchair, it's covered by insurance.
Yeah.
There's all these strict laws to make things accessible for wheelchairs. Like, people are just more willing and inclined to go into a wheelchair. I don't want to make light of it, right? I think a lot of people really can't move without wheelchairs.
Yeah.
But in America, they do make it very easy to be in a wheelchair. And I think that there's a lot of great things about that.
Yeah.
But in Korea, it seems really hard. So anyway, I don't know what your thoughts are on like accessibility and wheelchairs in Korea. But yeah.
This is something that I'm embarrassed to say. I'm a bit embarrassed to say that I'm negligent. But this came up front to the public in the recent sort of event that happened. There was like a protest that was done by the Korean, I guess, Disabled Association. What they did is they stopped the subway.
Yes, I made a note of this.
Yeah. And that's when I think people started to realize, it's still really difficult for the disabled to navigate through physically. I would have just assumed that things were a lot better than before, but maybe it's not. I'm pretty sure it's baked into the building code, though.
Okay, well, okay. Let's talk about that. In this episode, right? You know, she goes to a job interview for an internship, and they actually turn her down because she's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Because their building has a staircase.
Yes.
Right? Like, I'm pretty sure in America that's straight up illegal, and she could sue that employer for discriminating against people with disabilities. But I guess in Korea, clearly that's not a thing.
I'm not sure about the legal issues. Maybe technically they can
discriminate based on disabilities.
No, I'm saying technically they can sue them.
Oh,
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a law.
Did that scene immediately trigger something for you? Like, oh, that's so unfair for her. Like, she should sue them. Or you're like, no, it makes sense. Like, not every building has an elevator, so how's she going to work there?
More of the latter.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay. And I just want to highlight, I don't know if I've shared this on the pod yet. Like, in general, 2 times now already, I've like really severely rolled my ankle just like running on a Korean sidewalk because they're so uneven. And like, I think in America, maybe I took for granted or assumed like, oh yeah, the sidewalks are all super flat and well paved. But yeah, I'm just like running along, minding my own, like not paying attention, and then like crack, like my ankle rolls really badly because the sidewalks here are particularly, in my opinion, uneven. I don't know if you've noticed this, but
I don't know. Based on my experience living in Boston, I feel like it's pretty much the same. Yeah, like these old cities, their pavements were pretty uneven too. Like the tree roots are coming out here and there.
So, okay, I think the big difference is, by the way, it's to the point where I don't even run on sidewalks in Korea anymore because I'm so scared.
Yeah.
But I think the difference is Korea uses these pavers, like small bricks almost, with like sand filling. That's pretty ubiquitous everywhere for like flat whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas American sidewalks are at least like solid concrete. And so even if it's bent, there's no like sudden things, right? Whereas these pavers, I think, can really cause like extreme differences. And to the point of like disability and stroller access, pavers with sand, it's really hard to like push, and it's easy to walk, but it's hard to push a wheel along this. Whereas I think the fully flat paved sidewalks I'm used to in America are much more like wheel friendly. Anyway,
is that a California thing too? Because it's basically flatland and it's fairly new.
I would say that's an America thing. I think America is typically bigger and flatter, right, than Korea.
I've never realized that before, but now that you say it, it does make sense. I think the American pavements are usually cement, right? Which you don't see here that much in Korea.
You don't as much as the pavers,
Interesting. I don't know. There must be a reason.
Okay, anyway. All right, let's keep going. So there's a scene again. This main lead, she's a super fan of this group. Again, we've talked about how hard it is to get tickets. She's at the concert venue, And she gets this last minute call, like, oh, can you come in for like this internship interview?
Yeah.
I mean, I know they depict her as being desperate to get a job, but it was so like unrealistic to me that she would leave this, and she's in a wheelchair too.
Yeah.
She would leave this concert venue, try to get this internship interview, and then rush back all in 2 hours. Like, that's just crazy thinking.
Yeah.
And it's also really, what's the right word? Like, inconsiderate of an employer to like last minute call you, hey, can you come in right now for this internship interview?
Yeah.
I don't know. That maybe it's like a city thing because everything in Seoul is relatively close to each other. But again, that just seems so unrealistic to me. Did it feel that way to you?
I think it could definitely happen. The employer calling you last minute, can you come in? It doesn't happen for large companies, but I was pretty sure she was interning for not so large companies. So I think that can happen.
Okay.
And for her to ditch the concert and think that she can go and come back, I think that's not. I also thought that like, why would you go, right? You should just turn it down. But I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to depict her optimistic
that I
side.
agree with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she was like very okay with like, when she couldn't go into the concert, she was still having fun. Like her phone screen broke and she was still okay.
She shrugged it off.
Yeah.
June, perfect lead in for my next point. Yeah. So again, in the show, she leaves for this interview. She comes back and she can't go into the concert even though she has a ticket. Well, she lost her ticket, but even before she had the ticket, she wasn't allowed to get in because she missed her official entry time.
Yeah.
To me, June, the most unrealistic part of this whole crazy drama was that this random employee worker was willing to bend the rules to try to let her in. I was like, this would never happen in Korea.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
You agree?
I agree. I also wanted to mention some like subtle cultural things that happened before the concert when they were in front of the concert hall.
Oh yeah, please. I don't have any notes on this.
Oh, there were lines of trucks. You remember that they were selling coffee and snacks in front of the concert hall? And that's a very unique Korean fandom culture.
Oh.
So there's a thing called 커피차. It's sort of like a coffee, like a food truck.
Food truck, but for coffee. Okay.
But for coffee and like light snacks, I guess.
Yeah.
Usually, how these works is that the fandom sort of support or supply these coffee trucks to their fans when they're on scene, when they're shooting a drama or whatnot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they would like sponsor the coffee truck to their artist or actor actress.
Yeah.
So that they can serve the entire crew, and that makes their like in, let's say the equivalent of this is that you would all buy like a hamburger set for your entire class.
Yeah, I get it.
And then you become the hero.
Yeah.
They want their actor to be like that. But so this is called the 조공 culture. 조공, I think it's I had to look this up. It's an ancient term back in like, I don't know, whatever, hundreds of years ago, when like in the Asian countries, there were hierarchies amongst the countries. So China had the emperor, and the other sub-Asian countries, including Korea, had only the king. And so they had to go, like there was strictly a hierarchy. So Korea couldn't have an emperor. So they had to go to China every once in a while to like greet them and like give them gifts and whatnot. And that's called the 조공.
Oh.
Like praising them with stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is called the 조공. Like the fans give like these stuff to their idols.
Yeah.
But then there's this thing called 역조공, like reverse 조공ing.
Okay.
Where the artists will do that for their fans.
Yeah.
And I think this was a scene where the artists sponsored all these coffee trucks for their fans to enjoy in the coffee in front of the concert.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So this was something like fan service in a sense. The idol is like so grateful for the fans. They're sponsoring something.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're saying typically
it's the other way.
fans who like try to support the thing. Okay. The whole 고정, I think, now that I know the term, of like
조공. Yeah.
조공.
Yeah.
The whole 조공 culture of like fans sending things to their celebrity, the idol. Maybe I just don't know, but it also feels a bit foreign, right? Because like they're the rich ones. Like, why should I be giving something to them? It's like, what's the point? I get it because like,
because you like them. Yeah.
Yeah. Seems so like it. I guess as a group collectively to show like, oh, this person's so popular, I can kind of get. The scene I'm thinking of is at, after an ice skating performance, everyone throws things onto the ice, right?
Yeah.
And it's just showing like, oh, we all love you so much, like we support you.
Yeah.
So I can see that a bit, but it feels very excessive to like, not unique, but excessively done. To your point, like Koreans take things to the extreme.
And also utilitarian, right? It's
Is it
not
though?
it's not like a bunch of roses. It's
Yeah.
like specifically something that you can eat.
Oh, is
and
that
there's
true?
a specific purpose that you want to elevate your artist amongst all the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think like, if you go to a hospital for an emergency, it's a good gesture, kind gesture and thoughtful gesture to bring like something for the hospital staff. And it's like, oh, now take even better care, let's say, of my relative who's in the hospital. So I can get that.
And then also I wanted to mention the 응원봉 culture. They all had this little thingy that had like
the
like
globe,
LED
the light up globe.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
I think this is also a very unique Korean K-pop culture where all the fandoms have their own like designed thing that you can wave in the concert halls, and they have like a very specific design and a color of light, right? And I think in the 90s it started with the balloons. So nowadays they took it to a next level where the production or the management company designs this and distributes to the fans. And they're very well designed, and they're in plastic, and they're like battery operated and whatnot.
Yeah.
In the 90s, it all started with like they all just had balloons, but each fandom had specific colors that they can use. So that the artists, when they're performing, they know where their fans are.
Okay.
So for instance, in the 90s,
Yeah.
HOT, they were the thing.
The it group, yeah.
They were white.
Yeah.
And then the others would be like yellow, and some would be like purple.
But the two bands would never be in the same venue together, would they?
So they know how much of the area they have their fans.
But in like a venue, isn't it only one of the groups performing?
No, it's like in these...
Oh, and like contests or like lineups, like when multiple groups are performing. That makes sense to me.
There are these K-pop shows that happen weekly, right? 음악 중심.
Yeah.
Where all of these bands.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. It's not like to the concert for the group.
But even for the concert for the group, they would have the
balloons.
Color. It's their like brand.
Just to show their support.
Yeah.
I see.
So I think they took it to the next level these days and have these things, and like it's a huge deal, like the design and everything.
And getting one too shows like you're a real fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can probably buy one on site, but people bring it with them, right? I want to say, June, I don't know if this is for sure, but these globes now with the colors, they're even like to the point where there's something where at a concert, they can control what color each one turns. So you can create like almost like a drone type light show with people holding it.
Yeah, exactly.
Really advanced.
Also, one last thing I want to mention is the concert, whoever wants to visit Korea, the concert venue was actually a venue called DDP.
Oh, you recognized it.
Yeah, Dongdaemun Design Plaza. But it's actually not a concert hall.
Yeah.
It's a gallery.
Oh.
But there was just, I think the inside was just CG. And then the outside, they depicted it as a concert hall, but it's not. It's actually a very famous venue in Korea, in the Dongdaemun area.
Yeah.
Designed by a very famous architect.
In Korea?
She's not Korean.
Oh, non-Korean famous architect.
Yeah, I think English Iranian. One of the most famous architects in the past 30 years, I want to say. She passed away, but it's her only project in Korea.
Do you want to geek out about it more as an architect?
She's very famous for having like these very liquid, fluid forms.
Yeah.
And there was a huge controversy of that being built in that site because that site was pretty historic. There was a baseball stadium before in that site, and they teared it down and built this like cultural plaza thing.
Wow.
There are a lot of controversies around that. Personally, I think it's not bad.
Especially having a non-Korean like design and the architecture for a Korean cultural center.
Yeah.
It's an interesting choice.
Yeah. To geek out about this a little bit more.
You haven't named her, by the way. I feel like you should name her.
Oh, her name is Zaha Hadid. The biggest criticism towards her design is that it looks so foreign. It doesn't blend with the surroundings. And I have two arguments around that.
Okay.
Number one, what is the blending in Seoul City
Yeah,
context? It's just like
I know
hodgepodge of whatever, right?
you have your gripes about Korean architecture.
No, which I think is the beauty of Seoul,
Ah,
right?
Jampong.
It's jampong, and there's nothing like that in other cities. I think it's very unique. And
Did
so
I
I
use
think,
that term right, by the way? Jampong.
yeah,
You can say it in this context.
yeah, very proud. So I think you should celebrate the beauty of the whateverness in that context too. I mean, there are parts of Seoul where like the city sceneries are more harmonious, but that area isn't. And also, I think having something very foreign, it almost looks like a spaceship
Yeah.
that just landed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think that's like that striking emotion is something that's also something that should be celebrated for. But anyways,
One of my immediate reactions to it's June. I mean, it replaced the baseball stadium.
Yeah.
It's not that culturally significant to begin with.
it was a very old baseball stadium that I think a lot of Seoul people had like emotional associations with.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't laugh about it then. It's a baseball stadium, though? I don't know.
But let's say, well, you know, like the Fenway Stadium in Boston.
Sure. Was it that level?
Not to that level, but somewhat
But
similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I can understand. But then how could they not just replace it with a modern baseball stadium? That's crazy to me.
There must have been a lot of reasons, right? They probably moved it to somewhere else to make it more modern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Anyways.
Okay.
It's a place to visit if
Yeah, DDP. It's very famous. Okay, June. Let's try to go quickly here. There was a scene where she's on, I think, a Hangang Bridge, Han River Bridge, and the idol like comes up to her, right? And then, you know, he offers, "Oh, can I drive you somewhere?"
Yeah.
And then her friend pulls up.
Yeah.
This was maybe the second most unrealistic thing in the episode to me. Why wouldn't she tell her friend like, "Go away, I'm gonna go home with this person," right? Like instead, she turned down a chance to get driven home by her idol to go with her friend. That just was so weird to me. I don't know. And wouldn't the friend like pick up nunchi and like leave? I don't know.
Yeah, if the friend had nunchi, they would just leave.
Maybe nunchi.
But if she didn't have nunchi, I think even if I were in that position, it would have been very hard for me to say, no, I'm just gonna go with him, just leave.
Yeah.
Because it's like kind of a burden to him, right? Like he has to take her home and all that.
He offered.
If there were no options, I think it was a very good excuse to do that. But if there was a very clear and more rational way to go home, then it would have been very hard for me to say, no, I'm just gonna go with him.
I see.
Yeah.
I think this highlights like a cultural difference in thinking.
Yeah.
Right? Like to you, it was very natural for her to turn down the idol offer because her friend now came.
Yeah.
And that clearly made more sense, right? But for me, it's like ridiculous, like insane, like impossible to believe that she would turn down this chance to spend time with her idol and like tell her friend to just leave.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
There was a very different point that I catch that was very culturally nuanced and that I think the American audience would find odd in that scene. So, do you wear umbrellas when it's snowing in the US?
No,
I think that's a very Korean thing, right?
Koreans do that? Yeah.
Koreans do that. Plus, Koreans are very shocked to see that a lot of Westerners don't wear umbrellas when it's raining.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, rain. But snow is different.
Snow is different, but I'm just talking about the wearing of umbrellas in general.
I see.
I think Korean people are very shocked that no one's wearing, because in Korea, even with the slightest, drizzle, they would wear the umbrella.
Yeah.
I don't know where that comes from. I don't know where both culture comes from. I'm also sometimes confused in the States when it's like substantial amount of rain coming and no one's wearing an umbrella. And I don't know why.
Okay, I think if I were to immediately respond, I think Koreans are walking a lot more than Americans. So Americans are just in your car.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have to run from like, let's say the office building to the parking lot, your car where your car is parked, it's not a big deal. You get wet a little bit. But Koreans are used to being outside walking, and so you have to walk for longer times.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. And I do think Koreans are generally always carrying a small umbrella, which requires some foresight and planning.
Yeah.
Which to me is just too much for I just don't want to think about it.
I see.
Well, if it rains, I'll get wet. No big deal. I'd rather risk the chance of getting wet than have to like carry a umbrella with me at all times.
I personally had two explanations to this.
Okay, what do you think?
Number one is I felt like Americans think that wearing an umbrella is a bit non-manly. And they just... Do you resonate with this?
No.
No? Okay, let's go to my second point. I think it's their characteristics or like the, I guess, structural integrity of their hair.
Putting more gel?
I think this I know. Yeah. Western hair is more thinner and easy to manipulate, as opposed to Asian hair. It's more thicker.
Yeah. And
once it gets wet, it really deforms a lot.
Interesting.
And I feel like Western hair, if you just like do this, it'll just come back.
Go back to normal. Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
I do agree with the hair observation, but I never think about... I think Koreans care a lot more about their look and hair than Americans might. Yeah.
That's
I think
it.
That might be it too. Yeah. Okay, back to your point. I do see something where it's like the elements, nature. Like, I guess Americans embrace it, whereas Koreans are maybe like more... They don't like it as much, right?
Maybe.
And so for me, if I'm... Especially snow, the idea of putting up an umbrella for snow, that to me is ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, like, it's snow. It's not like it's uncomfortable being in wet clothes, but snow's not gonna like... You can just cuddle it off, right? Or whatever.
Cuddle it off.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So I think, I would say for me, maybe Americans are just more embracing of nature.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to go fast.
Yeah.
Okay, this really quick. Maybe I'll just go fast. There's a scene where, again, as a mid-30s woman, she's like zooming in on her idol's plunging neckline, and be like, "Oh, like, so thirsty."
Yeah.
It's refreshing in a sense to like the innocence of it, but for a Westerner, it would just be so ridiculous. Like she's a mid-30s woman, like fangirling over a plunging neckline. I mean, come on, that's like...
No, I can definitely see that happening in real
Korea.
life in Korea.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's unbelievably naive to me as a Westerner. But again, it's kind of refreshing. And I noted here, it does seem true to life in Korea.
Yeah.
So I think in general, just that level of like what is acceptable skin showing or whatever, it's like really, really high in Korea. This is a trope in a sense, but the first time I saw the magical time traveling digital watch, I was like, eye roll. Come on, this is so ridiculous. But yeah, anyway, it's just like, come on, that's just my point. Like, you expect this kind of ridiculous thing in Korean dramas. They're not at all trying to be realistic. Whereas I think in American dramas, they would try to add some level of like explanation to it. Yeah.
I don't know, this is slightly unrelated, but I don't know why Korean dramas these days are so into time travel.
They love time travel.
It's so weird. Yeah.
I suspect it's due to the nostalgia effect we talked about earlier. Like Koreans long for maybe the 90s or 2000s as like a better time. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Could be.
Or we've talked about it, right? Like Koreans feel like if you mess up, it's hard. You can't correct. And so they long even more deeply to go back and recorrect that one mistake they made maybe in life. Yeah, that one missed opportunity.
But also is aligned with the fact that Korean dramas are basically a fantasy world in general.
It does need to make sense, I think.
Yeah.
Again, Korean dragons don't have wings, Jun.
Yes, they don't.
I think that can be one
neither
of our
do angels.
That can be our classic tagline.
Yeah.
It does need to make sense. Okay, when she gets teleported back in time, into her high school body in time. The scene is like the teacher comes and literally thwacks her on the head for sleeping. The kids are all wearing slippers in class.
Oh, I wanted to talk about the slippers.
And then he makes her go to the back of the class and stand up for the remainder of the class as punishment. Again, for a Western viewer, this is like, that's teachers abusing their kids. You can't do that.
Really?
Whereas for you, I'm thinking you're like, that's so mild.
That's so mild.
No, but really, even that level of like hitting a kid with a rolled up newspaper, forcing them to stand in the back of the class as punishment for a high school student, that would never, ever be acceptable in an American school context.
Okay. To start with, I've heard that teachers can't do that anymore.
Even that level in Korea today.
Okay. And there are a lot of public controversies around that, that the teacher has no authority to do any correction. And like I wonder how does that work in the US? Because like back in the days there were some discipline to the classroom because I'm not advocating for physical violence in school.
Yeah.
It was like over the top too much when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there has to, like the teacher has to have some sort of authority, whether it's a formal way of like de-scoring them or whatnot in the scoring system.
Yeah.
But I also heard that even if that's the case, you can't do that to students in Korean context because the parents are going to call them. So, yeah.
I mean, honestly, in America, I think it's a problem. Teachers have no way to enforce the authority.
Yeah.
Again, but I think the rule is like literally teachers can't lay a finger on a student unless it's in self-defense. Even to the point where if two students are fighting, I think my understanding is teachers are probably taught unless one of their lives is at stake, you can't touch them.
Yeah.
For fear of like breaking some law, like them suing you, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I've not been in a school context recently, right? But I think the only thing the teacher can do is send them to the principal's office. If they don't agree, because you can't force them to go to the principal's office.
Yeah.
Maybe you call in security, have security escort them out, right? But like, yeah, and ultimately there's something called suspension. Like you're suspended from school. But if that kid doesn't care to be in school anyway, that's not a penalty, right? Maybe they don't graduate, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is like in the US, this is considered a really big problem that teachers and administration in schools have no real authority or control over their students. Yeah.
I also wanted to mention that you mentioned that everyone was wearing slippers. That's like a very typical school thing. And they had a scene where it's like close up to the slippers.
Exactly.
And it's because it brings a lot of nostalgia because that like 3-line slippers is like the typical slipper that you wear.
Yeah.
And I saw you wearing one of them in the neighborhood.
No, I just have regular flip-flops.
Okay, sorry. Maybe yeah.
Anyways. Oh, no, maybe I did. It's like in the US we called it like the 5-stripe slipper.
Yeah.
It was like the fob, the Asian slipper. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But those have three lines,
stripes.
so we call it 삼선 slipper.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 3-line
3-line slipper.
Yeah.
Of course, it was also highlighting in this drama, like she could now walk and she could see him. But I could see the double impact of the nostalgia of that slipper. Yeah. This is very foreign to Western viewers. Like in the classroom was considered inside, so you take off your shoes. That actually happened.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we got to go fast. So there's a scene where the male lead, he's a swimmer, and he just finished a swim meet. He did well. He's talking with his dad on the phone, but he's clearly nursing like an injured shoulder. He puts an ice pack on it, but he doesn't talk about it to his dad. In fact, he goes out of his way to hide it from his dad, right? Again, as an American, this general lack of communication and like intentionally thinking, okay, if I tell them, is it going to burden the listener? So I won't say anything. That's like very common, I think, for Koreans to do. And they wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
But I would say in America, like we understand why they're doing it. Like you're trying to take the high road and be good, but it's just dumb. Just talk, right?
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before. It's so frustrating as a Western viewer. Just say it.
Yeah.
But Koreans will never say it.
Yeah.
So I just want to call that out. Like when he's nursing his injured shoulder, he's not going to tell his dad because he doesn't want his dad to worry. But in a sense, he's lying to his dad.
Yeah.
I think that's the wrong behavior and leads to like a lack of communication and a lot of misunderstandings. Whereas they should just say it. But yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Interesting. I had the exact same experience because I sprained my ankle a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell my parents because they would overreact. And maybe this relates back to how Koreans overreact to everything.
Yeah.
Because parents tend to overreact to small things. And I didn't want to make a fuss about it.
Yeah.
Because they would like every time now they're going to call me saying like, how's your ankle again? And I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. I could definitely resonate with that as a Korean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think it's just reinforcing because June, if parents know that kids are inclined to not share, they think that when they do share, they might be understating it. And the fact that they're sharing something that cleared the bar to be worth sharing means to a parent, oh, it is a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost reinforcing, right? If you don't talk when you do talk,
Yeah.
it carries that much more weight. So
Yeah.
then they are more inclined to overreact. Whereas if everyone just like shared and communicated freely, it would be much easier.
I think, I don't have anything to say to that. I think that's true. Yeah.
But that's it feels like a very Korean thing. Like, I'm not gonna even tell you why I'm breaking up with you, but I think it's for your good. So I'm gonna ghost you, never talk to you, break up with you, and never tell you why. But it's a
very Korean thing. I can understand that instinctively, but I can't give you a good example of why that's a not bad thing. What is it to that? I wanna talk more about this.
It's like you're almost like you're doing the hard thing, right? Like, I think of course every Korean does want to express their emotion, but they're chamaing it, like they're holding back because it's the hard thing to do. And I think Koreans love doing the hard thing when they feel like it's the right thing, or they almost always feel like the hard thing is the right thing, if that makes sense. I don't know. That's my feeling.
I'll try to explain as much as possible that I can. I think the 고생해ness, like me going through hardship, is very praised in Korean culture. Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I see that happening in the workplace too, because I don't know if this is a exact equivalent, but there are times when some employees, they would work on the weekend, and there's clearly a way to report that in the system and get like, weekend working.
Oh yeah, overtime pay, right?
But sometimes they would just not. And like, if I ask them, why don't you just put it in? They're like, no, 괜찮아.
But they do want to be
고생했어.
But they do make it possible for you to find out.
They secretly maybe want the CEO to someday find out that this person did this work, but didn't want the company to pay,
Yeah, there's so much like credibility built up by that, right?
I can see that. It's kind of messed up. Yeah, now that you mentioned it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see why Western viewers get so frustrated? I think, again, 90% of conflict with K-dramas is just not communicating or miscommunication or not cleared up misunderstandings. Just talk.
That's the entire society of Korea.
Oh, wow. Okay. Jun, I can see myself starting to think this way. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not a bad thing. Like, I used to say maybe too much.
Do you have an example?
Let me try to think. I've shared this story before, but even now, if I were going through a hard time, let's say at work, I wouldn't share with my parents, especially not in detail. I might just say at the most extreme thing I'd say is like, oh yeah, work's a little stressful right now, but it's okay. I would never say more than that. Whereas I'd say 10, 15 years ago, I would just share like, like my manager, like I hate them. I feel like they're like bullying me, or like, this work project's not going well. Like I'm super stressed. Right? I just talk to my parents. They're my parents.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I would just, I don't need to tell them. They don't need to know. Yeah.
Okay. Don't know if that's a good thing.
I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, Jun, we really got to wrap up.
Okay.
Let me just throw some out. The same actor, actress, playing the same character 15 years apart in age. It's almost comical.
Yeah.
But it kind of works. And I think this goes to show like just how young Koreans can look when they're older.
Yeah.
And also like how much just a simple like hairstyle or clothing change can really like make the age seem more pronounced.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think these characters can equally pass for mid-30s and late teens.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Jun, have you heard the term Asians don't raisin?
Oh no,
but heard that?
Yeah.
Our skin doesn't wrinkle is the saying. Anyway.
Interesting.
Okay, just like there's two scenes where I literally almost cried even on the second rewatch, where she talks to her grandma who's younger and no longer in dementia, and also when she just sees her feet. It's like Korean dramas are so good at pulling at your heartstrings. It's just like OVA, but it's like done to good effect.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a scene where, first of all, they all sleep on the ground, which is very common, I think, even still. But the mom, grandma, and the daughter all are sleeping together on the ground.
Oh, I have something to talk about in that scene.
Yeah, but anyway, I was going to say, like, it would feel very foreign. Or, like, I think, like, oh, that's such an intimate occurrence. Where it doesn't, I don't think in actuality in Korean society, it's, like, that uncommon. Yeah.
It isn't.
Yeah. But yeah, what did you think about the 3 generations sleeping together in one room on the floor?
It wasn't exactly about that,
Oh.
but it was about, because in our previous episode, the K-drama episode, you said one of the Korean K-drama tropes is that they always sleep with the lights on.
Oh yeah.
So now I paid attention to the sleeping scene. So they didn't have the lights on, but it was like some sort of like moonlight that is so bright.
It was oddly lit, right?
Yeah.
You noticed that too.
Yeah, and I had a interesting take on that
Yeah,
I
what's
shared that I shared to you in Kakao
Oh, you did?
about how Asian eyes
Oh, yeah.
tend to be less sensitive to light, and that's one of the reasons why Westerners wear their sunglasses
More.
almost out of necessity, and Koreans it's more of a fashion choice. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why in K-dramas you can't have a very, very dark scene, because I think maybe in the Korean eyes you can't really see as well as a Western viewer would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you noticed that, right?
I noticed
It
that
was
now.
lit up,
It was
oddly lit up at night.
It's like as bright as the sun. Almost.
Okay, this is my last one. Yes. So in the drama, I think they're depicted as like, maybe not, but I was gonna say like middle to lower middle class, and they're in like this brick like house.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think would you call it a villa?
Yeah, in Korea you call that a
villa, right?
Yeah.
But to me, like that villa seems way more.
Or a 상가주택.
Yeah, it's not a villa because it's not the second. It's just like.
It's like a commercial building where the top story sometimes is used as residential.
That's a villa, or that's what you were saying.
That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
A villa is, I think, usually entirely a residential building.
Oh, my understanding was a villa is defined as first floor commercial, above floor is residential.
I'm not sure.
Okay, but anyway, like, would you agree that's seen as, let's say, lower class than living in a high-rise apartment?
Yeah, I think they were depicting them as like grassroots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, it's foreign to me because when I see them living in like the standalone, detached, like villa style house, seems way more appealing to me than being in a like chicken coop apartment complex.
Interesting.
But I think it has to do with the modern, like how modern it is. Like this was clearly the villa is a bit older building, but high-rise apartments typically are really new and modern. But as far as just like access to space, yard, parking your bike, getting in and out of the house quickly through the stairs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for that villa life over high-rise apartment, waiting for the elevator, no space.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why are you living in an apartment then?
Because I wanted to live how Koreans live.
Okay.
All right. Okay. That's it. I think one thing I wanted to end all these media reviews with, maybe it won't matter, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how much appeal do you think this episode has to a non-Korean viewer?
How would I know? Just guess?
Oh, yeah, good question. Like, okay, would you say this is something, this feels like a very Korean drama, like Koreans would like, but I'm not sure Westerners would like, or vice versa?
I would think more, if you would ask, I think it's very targeted towards the domestic audience because it brings a lot of nostalgia. But maybe it isn't in the sense that it depicts like K-pop fandom. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Okay, if they wanted to target it to the international audience, they wouldn't have done TVing original.
Only, yeah. That's my sense too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what would you rate it 1 to 10?
1 being completely domestic.
Yeah, and 10 being highly targeted and enjoyed by Western viewers.
I want to say like 3 max. Yeah.
Okay.
About you?
I put it at 6, but I agree with you. Like this one felt like it had a lot of Korean themes and tones to it.
Yeah.
But I put it highly because, again, I do think it's good chemistry. I think Koreans call it chemi. Like, it's good chemistry between the leads. And, like, it's just fun. So, bringing this back full circle, why I actually enjoy watching this one, to me, it's a refreshing throwback K-drama. It doesn't try to pretend to be more or less than it is. It's just, like, it's very tropey.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, it doesn't try to shy away from it.
I see.
Right? There's a term too, I think it's called Mary Sue. There's a term Mary Sue where the female lead is just like perfect. There's literally nothing wrong with her. And, she only exists to push forward the male lead's character development or whatever. This one is inverted, and I think like that appeals to women. Like the male lead in this drama is literally perfect. Over the top, nothing wrong, like impossibly perfect.
Okay.
Right? And like it doesn't shy away from that.
Yeah.
And that's what like maybe female viewers love. It's like, yeah, that's the fantasy element, right? It's not trying to be clever about it. It's just straightforward. And it's just like a good, clean, fun, sweet, endearing romance.
Yeah.
Of course, like it had to throw in this weird like serial killer thing, which is a bit of a spoiler.
Okay.
And then I'm like, why? It doesn't need that. But anyway, so it's like it appeals to like pure, innocent high school, just like romantic love. And that's nice. It's refreshing. There's no frills. It's just like a classic throwback, feel good K-drama. Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think a lot of Korean people would think that way. That like they wouldn't know what a classic K-drama trope is, right? Because it's just drama to them.
So interesting.
But I saw there's a separate page, Namwiki page, dedicated to criticisms towards K-dramas
by Westerners.
No, in general.
Okay.
But I think one big point was that the characters are too flat.
One-dimensional.
One-dimensional, yeah. And like the evil one is just like for no reason pure evil, and the good one is just like always good.
Jun, this drama is pretty much exactly that. Yeah.
I think this gets into like too deep of a discussion, but I think Korean public in general tend to view things black and white a lot.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And I think that's like lazy thinking. Like it's just hard to think in a very complex way, so they just want to make it black and white.
Jun, I would say it's not
yeah.
lazy. It is a collectivist thinking.
Is it? Okay.
Well, as a society, we need to agree. Is this good or bad?
Yeah.
If it's good, everyone thinks it's good. If it's bad, everyone thinks it's bad. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it is lazy. I don't know. Collectivist. Okay, that's it for this episode.
Whoa, that was long.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you'd like to support us, consider subscribing to being a patron on Patreon.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to us. Other than that, Jun, what did you call the airport mob again?
Airport mob?
For fandoms, like
공항. I realized I said 공항 look, but it was 공항 패션.
공항 패션.
Airport fashion.
Maybe one day we'll be popular enough to
do the 공항 fashion. What would you wear? What do you think you would wear? 이야기 hat?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say Korean American podcast merch. Man, at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
What's a podcaster's favorite drink?
Oh, you said You just thought about it?
Yeah.
I actually think you're pretty good at it.
I am pretty good at that, James.
Yeah.
No,
I think you. No, I generally think you have a good sense of humor. Like when you come up with the titles.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that. Wait, what did you just say? Is better than the cleaning
towel
of
Italy.
Yeah. Because that's just wordplay. Yeah. But this is also like in theme of.
Like what?
Yeah.
But Leaning Tower of Pisa relative to Cleaning Towel of Italy, I mean, it's just too good. That one I think is my most clever. This is not on Netflix.
The gods of PPL don't want us to do PPL.
Oh, it's backwards now. Wait, our coffee is being PPL a little bit.
Oh, okay. Free PPL. Root B coffee.
Send us the check later. Okay, so I've said it before. I'm on the K-drama subreddit, which for Korean fans is like a DC Inside gallery, I think. Is that good to say? DC Inside is too provocative?
It has a stigma to it. By the way, is there like a online community like that where like actually just being involved in it or actively on that platform has a certain stigma?
Only 4chan, but that's not mainstream in the US at all.
Oh, 4chan, I think is the equivalent of DC Inside.
Okay, then that's pretty provocative.